Rappers, do you feel like your mixtape is not a cohesive band of music? This question may interest you from my friend Talon Avery. Let's get to it. Rappers, I got posed the question by Talon Avery. He asked me this question about his mixtape as a rapper. He said, I've been working on my mixtape recently, but after listening to all of the beats over again, my mixtape doesn't feel like a cohesive project. I've written to all the beats but haven't recorded the songs yet. Do you have any advice on how I can fix the problem? Now, I think that rappers come across this problem because of the idea, not even the idea, but the fact that you invested into those beats. So when you buy something, we're used, as human beings, not even just rappers, as human beings, we're programmed that if we buy something, we need to get use out of that something that we bought. So when you buy a bunch of beats, or you buy a bunch of leases, and you're not using them, you're torn between the cohesiveness of a project and the fact that you don't want to have buyer's remorse. You don't want to feel like, man, I invested all this money for beats that I'm not even going to use. So here's what I say. If you bought a bunch of beats, I'm willing to bet that along the lines, there's something that threads these beats together because you like them. That's the common denominator, is that you like these beats. They fit a certain style. They're probably a certain BPM. They're probably a certain style. They're probably a certain subgenre of hip hop that appeals to you. Maybe they're all trap beats. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're trap, boom bap, hip hop, R&B. Here's what I would do. I would either restructure the concept of the project so that it makes sense to take things in these different directions. Think about A Good Kid, Mad City. Think about how that goes from, the Good Kid, Mad City theme to Money Trees to, Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe. These are all polar opposites of sounds, but he tied them together because he told a story that made them all make sense. Backseat Freestyle. Although you probably wouldn't place that behind, what was that behind? I want to say that was behind, I want to say it's behind Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe. But when you place that right behind it, I wouldn't necessarily put those beats behind each other. I don't think they would sound good together, but he made it sound good together because of the story he told. Okay, now we're going to go into the car. Now we're about to hit this leg. Now we're about to get into this backseat freestyle. It all makes sense within the story. And really what you're doing is you're picking beats, not saying, does this orally or does this as a whole mix together? You're saying, does this tell the story I gotta tell? Does this evoke the emotion I need this part of the story to tell? So you may want to restructure the concept of the project so that it all makes sense. I had a buddy of mine that he said he wanted to make an album that was basically beats from every genre, from every era of hip hop. So like 80s hip hop, and then 90s, and then 2000s, and then like the later. And that project was probably going to sound not like a cohesive body of work, but within the concept, it's cohesive. Something else you got to realize is that although you want to make a cohesive project, and I applaud you for holding yourself up to another standard than most artists do, the reason why people don't do that is because they understand that music is being consumed in a much different way. People are not taking full projects in general. People are not taking full projects and saying, I'm going to listen from song 1 to the end, and then I'm going to decide if this album is quality. Most people are taking the songs that they like and they're making their own album out of your album. They're making a playlist. They're adding it to a master playlist. They're adding it to a workout playlist. They're adding it to a going to work playlist, to a cooking food, to a cleaning your house up playlist. This is where your music is being taken apart. You have to give yourself as many times, as many opportunities as possible for people to start picking at your music. Still tell your story. Still make a cohesive album as much as you can conceptually, and give people opportunities to fall in love with your music in different environments. Imagine if you had an album that somebody could take a song from and it was their going to the club playlist. Imagine they could take another song from the same project, right? And they had a workout song that they can do, because I don't know about you. I don't like working out to the same songs that I would go to when I went to the club, when I used to go to the club. But I wouldn't want to work out to the same songs. Like I don't want to work out to, I don't know, what was out when I was clubbing? Let me show you my age. Boom, 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 boom. Hey, mama, what you doing? Let's be in here. I don't want to work out. Come on, bro. Get out my ear with all that. Shout out to the Yin Yang Twins. That's not what I wanted to do. So give yourself an opportunity now as a rapper today. Give yourself the opportunity to be in many playlists as possible. That's a benefit to having a project where sounds are everywhere. Now, I know there's people out there who be like, oh man, Curtis, is bad advice because you should make a cohesive body of work because they're classic albums. Let me let you know this. First of all, about classic albums, didn't nobody know it was going to be a classic album until it came out, until it had an impact. There is no instant classics. There's albums that we really, really like, but those that stand the test of time are the true classics. So knowing that that's the true classics, knowing that that's pretty much the criteria for classics, you won't know until time passes anyways. So all these pretty much rules that you have for what makes a cohesive album, what makes a classic album, it won't matter because what's going to come out is going to have the reaction it's going to have. If that's true, then you can't control that. All you can do is put out the best body of work possible that you can put out. And sometimes trying to look for cohesiveness, I'll tell you this, I'm a J. Cole fan, but one of my biggest gripes with J. Cole earlier within his music or his beat choices were some of the beats sounded so similar to each other that it made me kind of bored with some of the albums. Him as a lyricist, amazing, beyond amazing. But some of the beat choices, and I think he was making a lot of the same beats, and I think sometimes that's sort of, as a rapper, producer myself, sometimes it's not even a setback, but it's kind of a drawback to doing everything by yourself. You're only one perspective. You're only one vision, one set of ears. When you bring other ears in, other musicians, other particular sounds, you start getting these wide-ranging sounds that makes a body of work. There's a reason why you go to an A$AP Rocky song or project, there's like 8 writers on every song. I don't think it's because people are ghostwriting. I think it's because people are contributing ideas to make that song even better. Same thing for an album. When you're listening to an album, you're like, man, it sounds so cohesive. Well, it probably sounds cohesive not because they pick beats that sound like each other, but because they're probably working with the same higher studio higher musicians that are playing the same pianos throughout the particular album. Maybe they have the same style of piano throughout the whole album and it makes it feel cohesive. Maybe it's somebody that comes in and they're handling all the drums for every one of the beats. That makes it a cohesive body of work, but you don't have to worry about that nowadays because people are munching whatever they want to take off of your particular album and making their own playlist. If you know that, don't worry about that. You just got to make sure you got to get out that body of work. And then from there, to decide it. Now, if you're still hell-bent on no, Curtis, you understand it's so extreme from each other, here's what you do. Limit the amount of songs that are on that project. Use those other songs as loose singles to promote this particular project. Now, that's something that I learned from the early days of TDE is that there would be Kendrick songs that drop that we would never hear on, it was just never on a project, but there's some of his most popular songs within his catalog. Remember Cartoons and Cereal? That was a loose single. That was a song that could have easily went on a project. It was high quality, but it was a loose single. There's so many songs from Ab or Schoolboy Q that never actually made it to a project, but they were there for the sense of we need to make sure that our presence is felt and that we stay ever relevant to what's going on right now. And the way that you do that in a world where people consume media, consume music at an all-time speed, at a high speed and a high rate, and they get over stuff and stuff becomes old faster, you got to continue to release stuff. So I would use those as literally promotional tools for the songs that don't mix, make a smaller project, a more cohesive project, and use those songs literally as bait to get new customers, new listeners, new fans into your situation. Once you have that at your disposal, it's gonna feel like, imagine if you ran a 4-month campaign before your project came out and you released 3 songs a month. People would be like, man, you've been on fire, like you've been really consistent. Get all the artwork done for them, record the songs, and just start releasing song, probably 3 songs in a month. By the time your project comes out, I'm not saying that you're going to have the most humongous fan base. I can't guarantee you that, but what I can say is that you'll have momentum pushing into your project and people will already be on the lookout like, yo, he's really been working. When you drop an album, funny you should say that, that's coming out next. I've been had that ready. So I understand buyer's remorse. I understand, feeling like, man, I don't want these beats to go to waste, but start creating. You made songs over those for a reason. Don't worry about that. Either rework the structure of the album or the concept of the album, or just figure out a way to use these extra songs that really, really don't fit. Figure out how to use those as promotional tools. Once again, it's another Curtspiration doodle. If you need some more of this use, please subscribe to the channel below. Be a part of the notification gang. Hey. On my Patreon supporters, thank you so much for supporting the channel. You were helping us grow. I'm a step closer to going to the Les Brown Professional School of Speaking. so I can become more cohesive within my language and stop talking like this. I'm trying to get better. I'm going to get better. It's going to have more clarity. That's what I want to go to the school for. But to sum everything up that we're talking about, I understand buying beats and wanting to figure out, man, how can I make this work? I need to make these beats go to work. Well, put them to work. You know, use them for promotional tools or rework your project. Realize that you are living in the most luckiest time ever as a rapper to create songs however you're feeling, because you can make it make sense. We're living in an era now where, you know, people are not so obsessed over cohesive bodies of work. They're obsessed over, give me something that I can fall in love with, and I'll continue to consume your music, consume your product, because once it goes out, who cares if it's not cohesive? Once it goes out, people are going to be like, what's next? You know, so give the people what they want. I think that honestly, as another strategy, you putting out so many different styles of songs, you're actually doing sort of a test research in terms of see what your particular network likes the most from you. So taking chances on all these different sounds, now they're like, yo, I liked you over that boom bap beat. You should do more of that. Really? That's funny because I like doing that. Now you go to that. But you wouldn't have found that out had you not had choices. It's almost like treat your music as if you would treat your merchandise. You're not going to just have one shirt and one colorway. You give people a preview of all these different colorways, and when they see it, they're like, damn, I wouldn't even imagine that looking good on olive green. I'm gonna rock with that. Give them that particular opportunity to make that investment, and then don't forget, in this life, you will not be full of life until you decide to live life to its fullest. Curtis King of CurtisKingBeats.com. Just look at you. I can't listen to you. When I listen to you, it's a liability. Cause you be mentally killing my inner energy. So I'm concealing my feelings before you injure me.